All right, today I want to talk about what I call the path of progression. Now, this is something I've been learning about, kind of tinkering with in the gym, as far as how to help people progress in their fitness. But what I've learned is I think this can apply into pretty much anything that you want to master, to improve at, and to get better at. I think these principles that we're going to talk about can apply into pretty much anything. So here's the process. The way I've seen it so far. So when I have a new client that first starts and they're not super well versed in fitness, maybe they haven't been working out for a long time or maybe ever, usually it doesn't take very much to begin to stimulate progress. It doesn't take very much. And usually the first goal is to get a good foundation in place. So we just work on the basics. Keep it very simple, keep it very basic, and make progress. And what happens almost always is you begin kind of with a smaller subset of things that you're working on, and you just get really good at those basic things, at the fundamentals, that you typically make very rapid progress. When you first get started at them, you start improving very rapidly. So let's say you're doing sets of 10 on an exercise and you use 5 pounds one day. You might be able to go up to 8 pounds the next day, and then 10 pounds the next day, and then 12 pounds the next time, 15 pounds the next time. Well, eventually you're able to continually make progress like that, but what will typically happen is at a certain point you start to run into the wall. You start to run into the plateau where, you know what, it's getting hard to add more weight to get 10 repetitions, okay? So you're gonna run into this plateau at some point. So here's the thing, is that how do we avoid or get past these plateaus? We gotta continue to stay on that current path. We can't get away from the fundamentals, from the basics. So one of the things I made the mistake for a long time myself, is that we would constantly be switching programs. People would begin to run into the wall or get tired or bored of a program, and we would switch to a new program, and now we're not doing these things that we were doing before, so we lose our progress there, and we switch to something new, and now we're making progress on this, but when we go back to this other one, we've lost all of our progress. So what I think needs to happen is that you start with the fundamentals. You start very basic. As you start to run into the plateau, you stack another option on top. So maybe instead of you're doing dumbbell presses, I'm going to use the fitness example, dumbbell presses with the weights, and you worked up to 15 pounds, or if you're stronger, you got up to 50 pounds, whatever the weight was, you started to run into the wall where it was harder to begin to add more weight. Well, now you have some things. We can start to stack another option. So you still continue to do that one day, but then the next time you come in, you add a new option. Maybe it's a different exercise that you do, or maybe it's a different repetition range. So maybe instead of doing 10 reps, I do 8 reps or 6 reps, and I can increase my weight because I have to do fewer reps. And so now I've created some kind of new variable, and this change or this newness does a couple things. Number one, it keeps it fresh, okay? And number two, it stimulates new progress again, because when we first started, anything that we were doing that was new will stimulate progress. Well, so what we want to do is we want to start as simple as possible. Start as simple and as basic as we possibly can. When we start to run into the plateau, now we add something new to stimulate progress again. Now, the thing of it is, we don't want to add all these new things. I want to add just a few new things into the equation to re-stimulate progress again. And now it creates a cycle. So one day I do my basics, or maybe in the early part of my workout I do my basics, and then I stack the next thing on top of it. And so now I create a cycle in my workout. Okay, so it was a linear progression where I'm moving forward, and now I create a little smaller cycle in my workout where I'm rotating among the basic fundamentals and the new thing, and I'm going back and forth between them. By the time I get back to my fundamentals, I'm buying some time, really, by the time I get back so that I can improve. Hopefully, I'm stronger by the time that I come back. And so I add these new things in, I stimulate progress. Well, eventually on those new things, I'm gonna make progress and make progress and make progress, and then I'm gonna start to run into the wall. Now it's time to add the next layer. What is the next new thing? It could be another new exercise, it could be a new type of repetition range, it could be another element of the workout that I wanna add in. What is that new thing that I wanna add in? Again, I need to add something new to stimulate progress again. So I'm starting basic, I'm adding a layer to stimulate some progress. I start to run into the wall, I'm going to add another layer. And this process is kind of ongoing and begins to kind of expand. I call it the expanding workout system, is that it starts very basic and small, and it expands with you. So it only expands as you are showing up and being consistent and making progress. It begins to expand with you. And so what's going to happen is, now I've got more and more things that I'm cycling around, and the workout has more variety. The workout keeps more fresh, because one of the things I've learned is you have to have a balance between consistency and variety, and you have to have a balance between the two, because if I'm not consistent, I won't get results, And if I don't have enough variety, I will get mentally bored with it, and it won't stimulate fresh kind of new progress and new growth as we go. You know, my book, Cracking Heaven's Code, we talk about this is a balancing pair between consistency, which is doing it every day, and that's code 5, which is, you know, a daily basis, versus code 3, which keeps things new, keeps things fresh, stimulates new growth. Think of it like springtime, and regenerates and rejuvenates you, but it also stimulates growth at the same time. Think about the springtime, everything's growing. So it's this balance between these two, this code 3 and code 5, of getting really good at the basics, getting really consistent at them, and not ever straying from that foundation, but then adding new layers and new elements on top of that. Now, as you grow this thing, the workout begins to expand with you. As you get more and more advanced, things begin to get added onto you, and you get more and more advanced, and the workout begins to expand with you. But at a certain point, okay, you've got enough options. Your cycling around time grows bigger and bigger. Eventually, that could get too big, okay, where the cycle is too long. There's too many things to keep rotating through, too much variety. And now one of the things that we have to do is, one of the next stages of growth is pruning. Okay, we have to begin to go in and prune back the things that maybe aren't producing as much fruit. So, for example, in the exercise world, there are certain exercises that just some people feel more than others. So, for example, it could be an ab exercise for your core, and some people like certain exercises better than others. And so now it's at this point where I've expanded it out. I've got enough options. I've got enough options to keep it fresh. Now sometimes the answer is, actually, I need to prune it back some. All right, what are the things that are not really producing fruit? Prune those out, okay? Prune them back, and occasionally, sometimes, this will be part of what we do with our yearly cycle. So we have the yearly cycle. You can read about it in my book, 7 Days with Jesus, of God's yearly pattern of the 7 feasts. But the yearly cycle, there's a time for cultivating and for pruning, where you prune it back a little bit so that you can ultimately produce more fruit. Again, because if as you add more and more, eventually you're going to add layers of complexity to this, and we have to be continually pruning out the things that aren't producing for you, and, you know, getting the workout more and more refined. So what should happen over time is that as you grow and progress, you're using new things to stimulate new growth, but at the same time you have to kind of clean out the old and get rid of things that maybe aren't producing as much fruit for you. So in the fitness world, what would be the exercises that you don't feel like are really giving you the most bang for your buck? What are the ones that you're not really feeling like are giving you progress? You just don't feel that exercise, whereas another person does. Now the workout begins to get even more customized to you. So I feel like this is one of the things that God does with us. We start very basic. We begin to stack layer and layer and layer, and then eventually we start to strip away and begin to prune things. And what happens is that you get something that is truly unique to you, okay? You get something that is truly unique to you, and that it expands with you, and things that are getting eliminated out of it also create the uniqueness, because, you know, one person might cut out this exercise, another person might cut out this exercise, and now it might be, you know, hey, this exercise I don't feel like is really helping me reach my goals as much, and so now based on what your goals are, what your vision is, you're beginning to prune things out of your life, and it's getting more and more unique, more and more customized to you as an individual. Now, I feel like this is kind of the way that God's plan works for our lives, and that we start very basic, we begin to add, we begin to learn, we begin to grow, and then gradually over time we move into this cultivating phase where I begin to kind of prune back and say, all right, what are the things that I need to remove out that are not really helping me move towards my goal? I don't really feel like are helping me move towards that. I have to begin to prune some of those things out of my life again. So this path of progression is that I'm starting basic, I'm expanding, eventually I need to begin pruning, and I need to be pruning and expanding kind of at the same time, because as I find the things that I want to do more of, that I really feel like are giving me more results, I can begin to add to those things. I want to take out the things that I don't feel like are producing as much fruit and begin to add to the things that are producing more fruit. And so I'm constantly expanding, but I'm constantly simplifying at the same time. And this is I feel like is the path of progression. This is the way I feel like God does it. It's one of the things I've seen in our workouts. I'm still working on trying to play this out and seeing exactly how to time this thing and how it all works together. But it's an interesting concept, something I've found to be true when it comes to workouts. I can start very basic. One of the other things is I don't want to, when I'm adding to people in their workouts, I always tell them I don't want to add all of the new things right away. I want to save some for later, okay? Because I want to save something new that I can add at a certain point to stimulate progress if we're running into plateaus. I want to save some of those things for down the line. I don't want to introduce all of them at one time, because the more of them I can save for later, I want to use the minimum amount possible of new stuff to increase growth, and increase progress, to stimulate progress, and save the other stuff for later so that I can continually improve over time more and more. And that's the path that we typically want to take. But I found this to work very well with clients, but I feel like it applies to pretty much anything that you want to grow in and master and get better at, including your purpose and the direction for your life and God's plan for your life and the process that we go with Him. I feel like it mimics that same model. But I hope this helps. If you want to learn more, you can check out, this is something I'm teaching kind of as part of this Abundant Life Blueprint, which you can go to danielfoley.net. You can see a picture of the blueprint there. We're in the process right now of getting some new kind of stuff that I'm excited about to be up on that blueprint page. So check it out, danielfoley.net.